Hello, and welcome to the third episode of Engines of Chesapeake and Ohio. You know how some railroads have certain names for engines instead of using the normal white notation? Like how the New York Central calls their 482s Mohawks instead of Mountains, or the Western Maryland calls their 484s Potomacs instead of Northerns. Well, the C&O did the same thing on these engines we'll be reviewing, the Berkshires. Chesapeake and Ohio called them Kanawhas. They were named after the Kanawha River. The same was not done for the Mikados, but they were already designated as the K-class. There were 56 K1s constructed from 1911 to 1914, 50 K2s from 1924, and 100 more in 1926, 50 K3s and 50 K3As. All were constructed by Alco, who also started building the Kanawhas in 1943. Once C&O acquired them, they were called the K4s. Oops, wrong photo. There we go, that's better. An interesting fact to remember is that the Berkshires constructed for the C&O were also the same design used by four other railroads, the Nickel Plate Road, Pere Marquette, Erie, and the Wheeling and Lake Erie. During the 1930s, these railroads were owned by the Van Sweringen brothers, Oris and Mantis. Even though they lost their lives before any of the Berkshires were constructed, it was decided that the locomotive design for these railroads would be named after them. The Van Sweringen Berkshires were constructed by the Lima Locomotive Works, but the Chesapeake and Ohio was one of two exceptions. While 20 were built by Lima, 70 were created by Alco. Nickel Plate was the other exception, having the first 15 284s created by Alco, while 65 were built by Lima, bringing their total number of Berks a little less than C&O's at 80. Chesapeake and Ohio ordered 90. The K4s were equipped with 69-inch drivers and 245 psi boiler pressure, making them very powerful with 69,368 pounds of tractive effort. The Pere Marquette Berkshires had the exact same statistics, despite some of them being slightly older, with the N-class engines being built by Lima in 1937 and the N1s created in 1941. The N2s were the only exception, as they were built in 1944, 1 year after C&O started ordering their Berkshires. The Pere Marquette was acquired by the C&O, and the N-series engines were renumbered. The original numbers for the 39 engines were between 1201 and 1239. They were changed between 2650 and 2699. At least, that was the intention. According to this screenshot on steamlocomotive.com, the N1s and N2s were not repainted or renumbered. They stayed in their Pere Marquette livery right up to retirement. Two of these engines still exist. You already know about 1225. The other engine is 1223. It is on display at Grand Haven, Michigan. This engine was going to be scrapped, but thankfully, it was rescued, and in 1960, it was placed in display for the Michigan State Fair in Detroit. It wouldn't move to Grand Haven until 1980. As for the 90 K4s on the Chesapeake and Ohio, most of them were unfortunately scrapped, including 2701. It was on display in Buffalo after retirement in 1954, but it was soon sabotaged by vandals. You can kind of see why they decided to scrap it after that. The other engines placed in preservation were given much better treatment. 2700 was originally in Charleston, West Virginia. That engine was also vandalized, then moved to St. Albans, West Virginia in the 70s. Sometime after that, it moved again to Denison, Ohio, where it remains to this day. The Denison Depot Museum restored the engine in 2017, and it looks much better. 2705 is at the Baltimore and Ohio Museum in Baltimore, Maryland. An interesting fact to remember was that this engine was placed in a scrap line at Russell, Kentucky with several other steam engines. While most of the engines were scrapped, 2705 stayed in storage with a few other survivors, such as 1309, 1604, and 614, temporarily renumbered as 611. 2707 is at the Illinois Railway Museum, while 2727 is at the Museum of Transportation in St. Louis. 2736 is at the National Railroad Museum in Green Bay, Wisconsin. 2755 is at Chief Logan State Park in Logan, West Virginia, while 2756 and 2760 are in the original Virginia. The final three engines are 2776, located in Washington Courthouse, Ohio, 2789 at the Hoosier Valley Railroad Museum in Judson, Indiana, and last but not least, 2716. I saved this engine for last because even though it was recently on display, it's being restored to operating condition. This Berkshire has been used on excursions before. It was even painted as a Southern locomotive for the Southern Railroad's 1981 Southern Steam program. The following year, 2716 continued operations in her Southern dress, but an inexperienced fireman damaged the firebox. The engine had to be replaced by 765. After that, the Southern merged with the Norfolk and Western on June 1, 1982. Under the new Norfolk Southern banner, 611 was added to the steam program, while 2716 would later be placed into storage. Right now, 2716 is owned by the Kentucky Steam Heritage Corporation. With assistance from CSX and R.J. Corman, work is being done in Ravenna, Kentucky to get the 284 under steam once again. One of the first things the KSHC plans to do is have this engine operate on the Naugatuck Railroad in Connecticut, owned by the Railroad Museum of New England. According to a Rail Fan and Railroad article, KSHC President Chris Campbell stated this won't occur until the middle part of the decade, so you have plenty of time to prepare a visit to the Nutmeg State. While waiting, we can only imagine how wonderful the event will be, and enjoy wonderful memories of other excursions featuring the beautiful Berkshire. Hey guys, sorry this came out so late, but I hope you enjoyed the work I put into this episode. Tune in next time to Engines of Chesapeake and Ohio when I cover the F-Class steam locomotives. This will be the first episode in the series to feature two different types of engines, as the C&O designated both their 460s and 462s as F-Class.